This clip is from the Boundary Riders podcast, and if you do enjoy this, then make sure to check out the full episode out every single Wednesday morning on YouTube and Spotify. So, of course, over the week, the Swans played the Adelaide Crows at the SCG. I tipped them stupidly. I don't know why I did that. That was the worst decision of my life. Well, maybe not the worst, but it's definitely up there when I'm thinking about mistakes that I've made. But anyway, Swans got smashed. It was a deplorable performance. You would have heard it in the review if you watched it, how disappointed I was. I said it was insipid, embarrassing. I'm sure you've heard these buzzwords all over the week about the Sydney Swans. Of course, the big word that was used over the weekend from Adelaide Crow Wayne Miller was the Swans were a rabble. He could say they were, falling apart out there on the ground. You could hear it in the conversations. And when I heard that, I was like, I kind of saw that when I was watching the game. So, fair point. Now, I think it was Tim Silvers. I don't know I think he's the CEO of the Crows. He came out and apologized. Well, he went to Tom Harley and apologized for those comments, which, I don't think he needed to do. Wayne Miller can have his own opinion, and I don't think it was that out there. It was in context to the conversation that he was having with ABC. So I don't think it's that big a deal. But overall, the Swans are in a big hole right now. Probably in the biggest hole they've been in some time. Even in those years that the Swans were missing the finals, 2019 and 2020, there was always light at the end of the tunnel. The Swans knew what they were doing. I saw what was happening. The Swans were quickly regenerating to then go push for another big, top 8, sitting on top of the AFL ladder. The Swans always tend to do. Right now, though, it's a little bit of nowhere's land. No one really knows what the Swans are going to be able to do next. Dean Cox has taken over. There's a lot of uncertainty around the team. He doesn't seem to have a game plan, and it's getting a bit concerning. Now, you can't sack him on, 3 months of a season? What has it been? Maybe 3 or 4 months of the season. I'm not saying you should sack the guy. Clearly not. If you think that, I think you're hugely overreacting, and I think you've maybe one of the sperm of maybe you're related to Kane Corns, because that is just a huge overreaction. However, he needs to find something quickly, because he needs to find some sort of identity, because this team is just doing nothing out there. We've seen over the last few weeks, at the very least, from stoppage, all they do is just bomb long. They don't have a forward line that wants to compete, and the defense is so under pressure that they just concede so much score. And also, the midfield isn't playing defensively either. So, all of it is just not looking great for Sydney. Now, of course, the injuries are a factor. But you can't be losing games so badly, just losing with basically just huge lapses in, effort, I would say. We saw, the Crows kicked 12 goals in a row, and the Swans didn't stop it. We saw in the game against the Demons, the game was pretty much gone after the halftime, but it never really felt like the Swans were in it. But then 3 weeks ago, they had a good win against, who was it? We had a win against the Giants, was it? Was it the last win against the Giants? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was the Giants. But we're just not playing that well at all. Maybe it was Carlton. It would have been Carlton we beat, actually. Yeah, so Carlton we beat. And that was a really good performance to get from Sydney. They played a really good, I would say a 4-quarter performance. It's probably our best performance of the year against the Blues. But then again, we had a poor performance against Essendon. We nearly clawed it out. We probably should have won that game. But again, we didn't win it. And the game before that, we beat the Giants. That was the game I was thinking of. So, in a 5-week stretch, we've gone win against the Giants, loss, win against the Blues, loss against Melbourne, and then loss against the Crows. And the Crows was most damning. So I think plan A is to find some sort of game plan the Swans are going to have to play. Now, a lot of the Swans' game plan in more recent times has been the kick mark game, using their skill to build the ball up from halfback and then get the ball forward. And then usually a player like an Errol Goulden has been really good with his skills to just hit a lead-up target in the forward line, whether that be McDonald, Amati, McLean, or even Hayward, or Papley. But, of course, there's a lot of that that's out right now, Errol Goulden being the biggest one. So they have to do something different. Now, their pressure game that was there probably a year and a half ago isn't there at all. Now, there are a few, obviously Tom Papley being out isn't great, but that doesn't refute effort. And there are a lot of efforts that I'm seeing from Sydney lately that are borderline just not giving a crap at all. And it's getting a little bit damning, I would say. So that's something that Dean Cox needs to address, and that's something that the Swans have to improve. But on Dean Cox's point of view, I think the biggest point he needs to stop doing right now is rotating this team around with different positions and different players coming in all the time. So this year, we've already had, of course, at the start of the year, Tom McCartan started up forward. Didn't have it. Was talked about for weeks that he just doesn't have the forward structure. He's not a forward. So eventually, he finally changed his mind and put him back. It took him a few weeks to get used to it, but now he's a good defender. So since we've also had, Sam Wicks has played a defense. That one has worked. I've given him that. That is a very good move from him. We've seen Riley Bice come into the team, play off a halfback role, try to play a sprinting role. Now he's not being able to play that much at all. He was even subbed out last week. Nick Blakey was playing as a tall defender. Didn't work at all. So change that one. He's tried to play a running defender, but then again, he's not really doing that. It seems like he's been held back to some extent. I don't know what that is. We'll have to wait and see. Hayden McLean obviously come off injury, so that's understandable. But he's not playing in the second ruck anymore, which seemed to get him into games a lot. And now he's playing as a sole forward, can't kick goals. And now when he's kicking a goal, he's been wayward at times as well. Peter Laddam's been in and out of the team. I personally think he's been okay this year, but I think you go with him or you just don't. I don't think you bring him in just to play a second ruck role. I think you play him up forward and you tell him you bring the ball to ground or you're not playing. And the big one, in my opinion, is Joel Hamling. We brought him in against the Giants, I believe we brought him in, and he had a really good game of trying to limit impact from Sam Taylor and Jack Buckley, getting under their skin, and it worked. Now, since then, he has done absolutely nothing up forward. And I complained about it, I think it was last week with my brother, saying that he has no forward nous. He doesn't know how to play as a forward. So, if you've watched the Swans game, sorry for that, by the way, but if you've watched the Swans game in the last month and a half, and Joel Hamling's been playing up forward, there's so many times when the ball is near him, or there's a chance for him to attack the footy, or him to make a lead, but he's too busy worrying about his key defender. As a forward, you need to be watching or reacting to playing as a forward. You need to play the football. That is your number one job. Now, your number two job can be to nullify the impact of your defender. That is more than fair. But if you don't have the idea or the forward thought to go and get the ball and kick the goal, then you can't play as a forward in the AFL. I'm sorry, that is just the truth. And now they've chucked Joel Hamling back. And what did he do last week? Pretty much nothing. Do you know what Joel Hamling did last week? Because I sure fucking don't know. And again, why wasn't he subbed out? Why did they sub out Riley Bice why did they sub him out? They wanted to bring some run into the game in the second half. They brought on Cleary. They subbed out Bice for fuck's sake. Hamling was doing next to nothing, and he's in the team to play in the back 50 against, Taylor Walker? I'm sorry. We were down by 60 points. We're not going to... We didn't stop it. It just... We had a 10-minute patch where we were okay, and then the Crows just continued on. There would be no point of... Nick Blakey was doing next to nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if he's injured, but at the very least, play him on Taylor Walker. Give him a go. At least play Riley... I can't believe they subbed that Riley Bice with no injury. That was ridiculous from Dean Cox. And I think a big thing as well is he seems very... tight, I would say, very stressed. He's not free-flowing coaching. He seems like he's very under pressure. And I understand that. He is the Sydney Swans coach, a club that has been high for so long. And even when they were down for those couple of years, everyone knew what they were doing. They were rebuilding, a quick little reset with younger players to then rocket back up the ladder, which was good. And John Longmire was a great coach for such a long time for doing that. But Dean Cox needs to find his own identity, and it's something that I think I've mentioned before, but he needs to find his identity, what he wants to do as coach, and he needs to find it quickly, because if he doesn't, the Swans are going to be further and further down the ladder. Right now, I think the Swans are third worst team in the competition, minus maybe the West Coast Eagles, who have improved, by the way, and Port Adelaide. I think those are the three worst teams in the competition, and the Swans have a very interesting matchup against the Tigers last week. We get to in a moment in the preview to the round, but I'm not very confident at all. I think the Tigers have a real chance of beating the Swans. They've had a good record against Sydney in previous times, so I think they can do it again. But that's pretty much all my rant about the Swans. I'll probably clip this up and put this as a clip on the channel. So if you are watching this and you're a Swans fan, make sure to let me know what your thoughts about the Swans are down below. If you're all doom and gloom like me, or if you see some upside. I think there is some upside. I mean, I think that we can have, if we get our players back, we have hit the rest of the season, similar to how the Saints finished last year. We've got more than the Saints. We can do better than that. We can hit the rest of the season running after our bye. And then maybe we can resurrect something from the season. I think we just give up on finals. There's no point pushing for finals now, because if we do, we're just going to be making up the numbers. We've done this in previous years. I think it was 2023. We had a terrible start to the year after that grand final defeat against the Cats. We had a terrible start. We had to try and scrounge our way into finals, and then we got beaten by the Blues in round one. And then, I mean, look, we did make the grand final the next year, but I just don't think there's any need for it. We need to we'll get a longer preseason if we miss the finals. I think that's fine. Just do that. We get a full preseason into Errol Goulden. Nick Blakey, I think he is playing injured. Give him a full preseason. Tom Papley comes back. Cal Mills comes back. Isaac Heaney and Warner both on a preseason. We just get a full preseason into our players, and then hopefully we hit 2026 like a house on fire. That would be my wish at the moment. I don't want to go for the rest of the season without a win, Sydney. Don't leave it as that. But that's probably what I think is best case scenario at the moment. We hit the ground running from after the bye, and then maybe we can potentially resurrect our season, resurrect something from the season, get something out of the rubble, please.